Okay, so I'm gonna try this again. I'm not sure if you can hear me, if I don't see anybody viewing yet, so I'll just wait a bit. Okay, so I hope this is working. This is a lot more complicated than I thought at first. So I am just gonna start the song again, and if it buffers, maybe press pause and wait a while and see what happens. So yeah, let's try this again. King of my life, I crown thee now. Thine shall the glory be. Lest I forget thy throne crown brow. Lead me to Calvary. Lest I forget Gethsemane. Lest I forget thine agony. Lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. Show to me now the empty tomb, tenderly mourned and wept. Angels in robes of light array, guided thee whilst thou slept. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. Let me run like Mary through the gloom. Come with a gift to thee. Show to me now the empty tomb. Lead me to Calvary. Lest I forget Gethsemane. Lest I forget thine agony. Lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. May I be willing, Lord, to bear daily my cross for thee. Even thy cup of grief to share, thou hast borne all for me. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. I thought I was still very young until I realized just now that I really need some glasses. So now that we're done with this song, it is time for a quick trivia. So the first question that we have, and I think I'll have to wait a bit before I go on because I'll need to see anybody responding first. So the first question we have is, how many books are in the Bible? So let's see what you say. Okay, well, I see everybody's highs coming through now, so hi again. Sorry about all the troubles. So I don't know, you can see it. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so the second question we have just having some technical difficulties, is how many books are in the Old Testament? So it has a little more than the New Testament. Okay. Okay, so that is in the Old Testament. I'm still looking for the right answer. Anybody want to guess? It's somewhere in the 30s. Yes, okay, good. So we have the right answer there. So the third question is, how many books are in the New Testament? So this is a little less, and we already had the number somewhere up there in the comments. Okay, I'm just waiting for the video to reach you. I have to try and sit still on my chair. I have a swivel chair and I find myself swiveling. Yes, okay. So, then we have a fourth question. And this question is, what does the minor prophets mean? So I'm talking about a certain group of books in the Bible. So what do you think that means? Okay, so going back to some of the previous questions, there are 66 books in the Bible. There are 39 books in the Old Testament and then 27 in the New Testament. Oh, I'm not sure if the lag is great, so I see some answers coming through now. So, because I'm a very patient person, I'm going to give you the answer to this question. So, the Bible is divided into two major groups, like I've explained in class. So you have the Old Testament and the New Testament, but then they are also divided into smaller groups, mostly through Bible scholars. And then the last few books of the Old Testament are called the minor prophets, and that is also mainly because it is shorter books, like I also see here in the comments now. So that is then the answer for that question. And then the last question is, what is the last book in the Old Testament called? Okay, and I'll wait a little bit to see if I can find any answers here. Okay, so finding some good answers from the previous questions, still seeing them popping up. I'm guessing with the lag and everybody's finding the information in different times. So good job so far with the answers. Okay, yes, great. So there we have the answer. So far, it's Malachi. And then Malachi is also the book that we're going to discuss today. And Malachi means messenger or my messenger, or as you can see here, messenger of God. And what is important to know about this book is that it is written to Israel. So as you know, if you are not an Israelite, you are a Gentile, which will then be us. I don't know if anybody here are Israelites. I am, I think 1/8, but I still think I fall under the category of a Gentile. And this is also written in the time where the second temple was already rebuilt. So this is then about 400 years before Christ when this was written. So just keep that in mind. And then we are going to discuss only the first 2 chapters today, and then we will be discussing the last 2 chapters of the Old Testament next Monday. So, we read about disputes that God raises against Israel, and He is warning them against what they are doing wrong. So let's look at the first dispute. So God tells His people that He loves them, And they ask him, but wherein have thou loved us? So they're asking, but where is the proof of your love? And he tells them that he has preserved them as a nation and their enemies has been destroyed. So they say, you haven't loved us, and then he gives them proof. And then we'll see now if they respond to this, if they react to this, and in history how things change. It will also look at when we start with the New Testament and the Gospels, when we'll work with that group of books. And then the second thing he asks them is, if I am your father, where is my honor? And if I am your master, why do you not fear me? So he's talking to them mostly about the way they feel about him and the way that they treat him. And he's warning them that something needs to change. So then also in the first chapter, you'll see that he talks about them, specifically speaking about when they were making offers, an offering, that they gave him the worst of what they had. They didn't bring the right sacrifices, the requirements. They brought the worst of what was expected. And he uses the Gentiles as an example against them. And he says, but I have done all these things for you. My name is not great among you, but with the Gentiles it will be. And they are God's people. So now God is turning again to the Gentiles and he's saying, even these people will be able to do this right. So as the end times come closer, and we'll also deal with that a little later, you'll see that people have a hard time fixing their hearts. And this is one of the big problems that we'll also talk about later on. Then, as we go to chapter 2, he raises a dispute against the priests. So he tells them that he has cursed them and he will keep on cursing them because they are not living holy lives. And he brings up Levi, which was then also the priest that God chose for the generation of priests to come. And he says that he was a holy messenger and I bless him with peace and life. But he tells them that you are brought to a shameful state and you are dishonorable because of your disobedience and because you do not follow the law. So these people that were supposed to be the priests weren't even following God. Their hearts were not right with God. And then we find this. Now I'm going to try really hard to fit into this. Let's see. Okay. No. Oh, which side? Okay. Let's see if I can move the dress. This will all make sense in a short while. I'm in that dress. That is me in the dress. And that is my beautiful tiara. My wedding tiara, which will be on my head any moment. No, I'm moving my head. Bam. Okay, so then the second dispute that he raises is that you're not keeping your vows. And marriage is something very sacred. It is a vow that you made before God. So it's not just a vow between two persons. It's also a vow that those two persons made with God. And God tells them that he's not going to listen to their sorrowful crying because they are not treating their wives the right way. And they're putting them away, which is the same way as saying they are divorcing them. So God says that I will not hear you because you cannot keep your vows. You do not keep your promises. And then the last dispute that we see here is that they have wearied God in that they have made the wrong things right. So their standards has not only lowered, it's completely switched around. And by also saying that God is absent. So now the important question that we have to ask from this, because the Bible says that we must use the Old Testament for learning, is what do we learn from this? So it's the last book in the Bible written 400 years before Christ came. So we already have this setting of Christ is coming. And as we know, Christ will be coming soon. The second coming is, we can feel it. It's right around the corner. And we have so many things happening and we have to prepare for seeing him again. And even if it's a little longer than we will live, we will still see Christ. And we have to prepare for seeing him again. So this book teaches us a very good lesson, and it's about how to treat God right and how to think rightly about God and how to live your life based on what God expects of us. So there are 6 things that we can learn from this. And I would like you to think about this as I go through this and try to see this into your life. So the first thing that we can learn on how to treat God better is looking for the proof of his love. So the Israelites were denying the proof of his love. They were acting as if it wasn't there. So looking for the proof of his love and saying thank you for everything that he's done for us is a great way of showing our thankfulness towards God. And then another very important thing is to love and to fear God, because he is a great God. And I believe that this is something that you should practice. It's like running a marathon. You're not just going to wake up one day and run this long marathon and be successful. You'll probably like faint somewhere next to the road. So this is something that we have to practice to make sure, but do I fear God? Do I know him well enough? Is my heart right with him? Am I loving him? Remember, love is a verb. And we see that also in 1 Corinthians. So it is something that you practice. And then another important thing is that we should try our best. We should give our best. Whatever we give to God, we must make sure that it is our very best effort. And it is the very best we have. God is not a second-rate God, so we cannot be second-rate Christians. It does not work. We have to give everything. And then the other thing is obedience. So most of you listening, and some parents are also tuned in, we know that God requires of us to be obedient of our parents. So while you are young, it's a very good time to practice obedience. When your mom or your dad says, hey, is your room clean? It's been a week since you've cleaned. Then you need to say, I haven't cleaned my room in a week. You are right. And your mom says, hey, it's time to clean your room. And you should go clean your room. It is great practice for one day when you are older and you have to make decisions on your own, big decisions for your life, to be able to follow an authority. And that is very difficult for people who has never tried laying down their own will. So that is important as young kids to start learning that. So when mommy says do it, let's do it. Okay. And then another thing that we can learn on how to treat God right is to keep our promises. Now, this is not just important for relationships between people. If I tell you I'm going to be there tomorrow and I never show up, I broke a promise and you lost trust in me. You lost faith in me. But this is something between you and God. So if you tell God, I am going to do this and this and this every day, and you don't do that, you're breaking that relationship between you and God. So it is important for us to keep the promises that we made to God, to keep our vows, not just between the vows that we made as, for example, husband and wife, but smaller ones, greater ones. And then another important one, which I believe is the basis for all of these actions, all of the ways that we think about God and the way that we treat God and the way that we feel about God, is acknowledging his presence. Because if he's not real to us, we won't feel motivated, we won't feel pressed to do something about the fact that there is a God and that his hand is constantly in our lives and working in our lives, and he's guiding us, and he has something to say. He has an input in our lives. So we have to look around in our lives and ask ourselves, where is the presence of God? And this will help us to stay holy and to fix our hearts to God and our eyes and look upon him. So I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. I can't wait for the next one. I'm already excited. So Monday feels too far from now. But this is the lesson for today. If you want to go back, rewind a bit, look at the 6 things we learned from it, please feel free to do that. But for now, I'm going to close in a word of prayer. Lord, thank you very much that even though we're on lockdown, Lord, that we can come together and learn from your word, Lord, and that we can spend time together, Lord. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Please help us, Lord, to improve on the way that we think about you, Lord, and the way that we feel about you. And please help us, Lord, not to make the same mistakes, Lord, that the Israelites did. Lord, they were not ready when you came, Lord, but please help us to be prepared when you come the second time, Lord. Lord, thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you for saving us, Lord, and thank you that we can now also, Lord, have a part in the promise of eternal life, Lord. Amen. Okay, see you on Monday. I'm going to end the stream. I'm still very new at this, so whatever mistakes you see in the coming few days, just forgive me.